Think of synthesizing your sources as smoothie versus parfait. On the left-hand side, you have a smoothie. Think of each source as a piece of fruit. So your smoothie is going to be filled up with different types of fruit, aka different sources that you have to use in order to support your thesis. Once you gather all of your sources, you can mix and match them within your body paragraphs. This means that you can use two sources in one paragraph. You can start with one source and follow it up with another source. You can show how one source supports another source. You can show how one source disagrees with another source. The idea is to blend them like a smoothie. On the right-hand side, you have what we call a parfait. Now, if you don't know what a parfait is stacks of different ingredients. So, you might see a parfait that has fruit on the top, and then some type of nuts in the middle, and then yogurt at the bottom. We don't want to write our essay like a parfait. A parfait is stacked, and a smoothie is well blended. So a parfait would be one source per paragraph. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is utilize all of our sources like the left-hand side, combine them to create a well-rounded argument. So like we saw in the previous clip, we want to utilize various sources throughout the body paragraphs. Think of your sources as pieces of fruit and your essay as your smoothie. Each source does not need to stand alone in a single paragraph. When we use multiple sources, we try to use each source for multiple reasons rather than use one source to make one point and then move on to the next source and repeat the same thing. This gets a little boring for the reader. It also doesn't show a lot of depth in research. So synthesis is the blending of evidence to show agreement or disagreement among sources. You want to show that one source can agree with another one can disagree with another one. You want to show patterns. To strengthen the credibility of a source, you can show your audience how another credible source agrees with them. Now you have two credible sources supporting the same point. This shows the audience that you have done your research and can support your point with multiple forms of evidence. This does not mean that you have to use multiple sources every single time you make a point, but utilize this sporadically to strengthen your argument. So as we mentioned in the previous clip, you want to avoid relying on parfait style writing. And when I say rely on, I mean you don't want to use parfait style throughout your entire essay. You want to mix it up between smoothie style and parfait style. That way you have variety. We often depend on using one source to make a single point. Once we've made our point, we move on to the next point and then the next source. We don't want to do this every single time. Think of a parfait as a stack of items, usually fruit and ice cream or yogurt in a cup. Look at the example here on your left. We have some strawberries, some bananas, some yogurt, and some granola, let's say. They are stacked on top of each other. So each item sits separately. They're not mixed together the way we saw with the smoothie. We do not want to stack all of our sources. The problem with parfait style writing is that it shows shallow research and does not show connections between sources. Connections between sources is very important. Showing how one source relates to or disagrees with another source shows your audience that you have done the appropriate research, you understand the topic well, and you can support that fact with multiple forms of evidence. Let's take a look at an example of synthesizing two sources to make one point. Let's say that you want to argue that dropping college courses should not have limitations. Here's an example showing a pattern or agreement between two sources to support your points. Let's look at quote number 1. We have college students are likely to drop out due to financial stress even when they are excelling in their courses. We took this from John Smith from page 51 of a source. The second quote we have is in their first year of college or university, 30% of all freshmen drop out for reasons beyond a lack of effort, which is a common misconception. Life's complications affect student retention more than student commitment ever will. This is from Steve Lake, and again from a source on page 22. Now let's say we want to combine these two quotes and use them to make one point. What I usually tell my students is try to paraphrase one, quote another one. You want to mix and match so that it's not just quote, 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 right? So let's take a look at a paragraph using both quotes. First, we start with our own information. College students experience food insecurity, homelessness, abuse, etc. at alarming rates, affecting retention. Then we move on into introducing a source. One major reason is that college students are likely to drop out due to financial stress even when they are excelling in their courses. Here we have our last name and page number. As you can see, we haven't introduced the author and title of the article in full because this would be a paragraph that has come after the author's already been introduced, just for an example. Within the first year alone, 30% of all freshmen drop out due to complex reasons as aforementioned and not because they aren't trying. So here we've decided to paraphrase Lake just so we wouldn't have two quotes following each other. You can do this every now and then, but try not to do it all the time. Again, we have our in-text citation with the last name of the author and our page number because we've already introduced this source in full earlier in the essay. Here we say Lake and Smith emphasize the struggles that students face daily. So here we're showing our reader how these two ideas are connected. Educational institutes and educators must empathize with this reality when deciding on policy affecting attendance and drops. This is what we call commentary. You want to provide a reason to your reader as to why you included the information. You don't want them to just guess why it's there. Tell them why you've included it so that they can make sense of your essay, the point you're trying to make, and the reason the sources are there.